35 years ago, he was one of the unhappiest lads in New York. He was selling motor trucks for a living. He didn't know what made a motor truck run. That wasn't all, he didn't want to know. He despised his job. He despised living in a cheap furnished room on West 56th Street, a room infested with cockroaches. He still remembered that he had a bunch of neckties hanging on the walls, and when he reached out of a morning to get a fresh necktie, the cockroaches scattered in all directions. He despised having to eat in cheap, dirty restaurants that were also probably infested with cockroaches. He came home to my lonely room each night with a sick headache, a headache bred and fed by disappointment, worry, bitterness, and rebellion. He was rebelling because the dreams he had nourished back in his college days had turned into nightmares. Was this life? He cried within himself. He longed for leisure to read, and to write the books I had dreamed of writing back in his college days. He knew he had everything to gain and nothing to lose by giving up the job he despised. He wasn't interested in making a lot of money, but he was interested in making a lot of living. In short, he had come to the Rubicon, to that moment of decision which faces most young people when they start out in life. So he made his decision, and that decision completely altered his future. It has made the last 35 years happy and rewarding beyond his most utopian aspirations. His decision was this, quote, "I would give up the work I loathed, and, since I had spent 4 years studying in the State Teachers College at Warrensburg, Missouri, preparing to teach, I would make my living teaching adult classes in night schools. Then I would have my days free to read books, prepare lectures, write novels and short stories. I wanted to live to write and write to live. What subjects should I teach to adults at night?" As he looked back and evaluated his own college training, he saw that the training and experience he had had in public speaking had been of more practical value to him in business and in life than everything else he had studied in college all put together. Why? Because it had wiped out his timidity and lack of confidence and given him the courage and assurance to deal with people. It had also made clear that leadership usually gravitates to the man who can get up and say what he thinks. He applied for a position teaching public speaking in the night extension courses both at Columbia University and New York University, but these universities decided they could struggle along somehow without my help. He was disappointed then, but now he thanked God that they did turn him down, because he started teaching in YMCA night schools, where he had to show concrete results and show them quickly. What a challenge that was. These adults didn't come to his classes because they wanted college credits or social prestige. They came for one reason only: they wanted to solve their problems. They wanted to be able to stand up on their own feet and say a few words at a business meeting without fainting from fright. Salesmen wanted to be able to call on a tough customer without having to walk around the block 3 times to get up courage. They wanted to develop poise and self-confidence. They wanted to get ahead in business. They wanted to have more money for their families. And since they were paying their tuition on an installment basis and they stopped paying if they didn't get results, and since he was being paid, not a salary, but a percentage of the profits, he had to be practical if he wanted to eat. He felt at the time that he was teaching under a handicap, but he realized now that I was getting priceless training. I had to motivate my students. I had to help them solve their problems. I had to make each session so inspiring that they wanted to continue coming. It was exciting work. He loved it. He was astounded at how quickly these businessmen developed self-confidence and how quickly many of them secured promotions and increased pay. The classes were succeeding far beyond his most optimistic hopes. Within 3 seasons, the YMCA's, which had refused to pay him $5 a night in salary, were paying him $30 a night on a percentage basis. At first, he taught only public speaking, but, as the years went by, he saw that these adults also needed the ability to win friends and influence people. Since he couldn't find an adequate textbook on human relations, he wrote one myself. As the years went by, he realized that another one of the biggest problems of these adults was worry. He went to New York's great public library at 5th Avenue and 42nd Street and discovered to his astonishment that this library had only 22 books listed under the title Worry. He also noticed, to his amusement, that it had 189 books listed under worms. He looked over those 22 books on worry reposing on the shelves of the New York Public Library. In addition, he purchased all the books on worry he could find, yet he couldn't discover even one that he could use as a text in his course for adults. So he resolved to write him myself. He began preparing himself to write this book 7 years ago. How? By reading what the philosophers of all ages have said about worry. He also read hundreds of biographies, all the way from Confucius to Churchill. But that was only a beginning. He also did something else that was far more important than the interviews and the reading. He worked for 5 years in a laboratory for conquering worry, a laboratory conducted in his own adult classes. As far as he knows, it is the first and only laboratory of its kind in the world. This is what they did. They gave students a set of rules on how to stop worrying and asked them to apply these rules in their own lives and then talk to the class on the results they had obtained. Others reported on techniques they had used in the past. As a result of this experience, he presumed he had listened to more talks on how I conquered worry than has any other individual who ever walked this earth. Some of his books are Art of Public Speaking 1915, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 1936, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living 1948, and His Name is Dale Carnegie,